The first wave hit like a tsunami of metal and flesh. 100,000 Deverex drone ships screamed toward Fleet Master Kim Dae-hyun's Corvette screen. The small human vessels mixed with Council fast attack craft met them head-on. It was 50,000 ships against 100,000. The numbers were against them, but they had something the enemy did not. They had choice. Kim's pilots moved as one coordinated swarm, but each one made individual decisions. They adapted not through forced evolution, but through creativity and cooperation. Their quantum-linked communication systems allowed them to share tactical data instantly, while maintaining their unique perspectives. They fought like a school of fish, each one independent yet part of a greater whole. The space between the two fleets lit up with weapons fire. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Corvettes danced between Deverex drones, their superior maneuverability allowing them to dodge and strike with precision. But the enemy had numbers. For every drone destroyed, 2 more took its place. Fall back in phases, Kim ordered. Make them chase you. Lead them into the kill zones. The Corvettes retreated in controlled waves, drawing the Deverex deeper into the fleet's defensive perimeter. As planned. As practiced. As hoped. Then the Titan-class vessels opened fire. 37 massive human ships, each one a fortress unto itself, unleashed devastation. Energy weapons, kinetic rounds, probability manipulation, and exotic physics the galaxy had never seen, merged into a wall of destruction. The pursuing Deverex drones ran straight into it and died by the thousands, but the real threat was not the drones. It was the 24 Hive world ships that followed behind them. Each one focused its weapons on a single Titan-class vessel, attempting to overwhelm them with concentrated firepower. The indomitable Dawn took fire from 3 Hive world ships simultaneously. Its living hull screamed as energy weapons carved deep wounds into its structure. The ship's biological systems worked frantically to repair damage, growing new armor, adapting to the incoming fire. But there was too much, too fast. Too powerful. Shields at 40%, Lieutenant Kang reported, his voice tight with stress. Hull breaches on deck 17 through 32. We are losing atmosphere. Captain Doyen remained calm. Seal those sections. Reroute power to forward shields. And someone tell the ship it is doing great. We need it to hold together just a little longer. Engineer John Hyunwoo closed his eyes and spoke through his neural link to the vessel. I know it hurts. I know you are afraid. But you are stronger than they are. You are alive. You choose to fight. They are just machines that know only consumption. Show them what life can do, the ship responded. Its hull began to shift and change, growing new weapons configurations that the Deverex had not encountered yet. The living vessel was evolving in real time, learning from the battle just like its enemy, but doing so through choice rather than programming. Commander Oh Yoonji aboard the Eternal Horizon demonstrated a different tactic. Her ship used quantum-fold micro-jumps to appear unpredictably throughout the battlefield. She would emerge, fire a devastating salvo, and vanish again before the enemy could respond. It was exhausting for her crew, but it kept the Deverex off balance. The Council fleets fought with desperate courage. The Australian Empire's swarm ships, led by Veltharis himself, dove into the launch bays of the Vex Sovereign. It was a suicide mission. Half the Australian fleet died in that attack, but they succeeded in disrupting the massive command ship's ability to deploy more combat units. Veltharis survived, his ship damaged, but intact. As he limped back to friendly lines, he understood something profound. Sacrifice was not weakness. It was the greatest strength of all. The stone-born dreadnoughts formed an unbreakable wall. Their neutronium armor absorbed punishment that would have destroyed any other ships. Chancellor Brockmar stood on his flagship's bridge, personally directing the defensive line. Ships exploded around him, but the Stoneborn did not retreat. They could not. Too many others depended on them holding the line. Ambassador Lysira made a choice that would haunt the survivors forever. She and thousands of other Celestian energy beings merged into a single massive entity. They became pure energy given terrible purpose. Then they phased directly into a Hive world ship and detonated. The explosion was visible from light years away. The Hive world ship disintegrated, and a third of the Celestian species ceased to exist in that moment. They had given everything to protect others. Their sacrifice saved millions, but still the enemy came. The Deverex learned from every tactic, adapted to every weapon, Probability collapse cannons began failing as the enemy developed quantum shields. Living ship regeneration was countered by biophage weapons that infected organic systems. The enemy even began using captured human technology against the fleet. On the indomitable dawn, Dr. Choi Hana worked frantically with her team. They had to find a way to counter the Devarex adaptation. There had to be something the enemy could not learn, could not copy, could not consume. Then she realized the answer had been there all along. The Devarex could adapt to technology. They could assimilate biology, but they could not understand choice. They could not comprehend fighting not for survival but for others. They could not grasp the idea of willing sacrifice. "Captain, I need you to authorize the synthesis protocol," Dr. Choi called to the bridge. Doyen knew what she was asking. The synthesis protocol would link every human ship and crew member into a single quantum network. It would not be a hive mind. Each person would retain their individuality, but they would share thoughts at light speed, coordinate at a level that seemed impossible, fight as one while remaining many. It was dangerous. If the Devarex managed to infiltrate the network, they could corrupt the entire fleet, but without it they could not win. "Do it," Doyen ordered. "All ships prepare for neural synchronization." Engineer John activated the protocol. Across the fleet, millions of minds connected. Human pilots in corvettes linked with gunners on Titan-class ships. Engineers coordinated with tacticians. Scientists shared data with commanders. It was overwhelming. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. And it worked. The fleet became something the Devarex could not comprehend. Ships moved with perfect coordination, but unpredictable creativity. Tactics evolved mid-second. The fleet adapted faster than the enemy, not through mechanical evolution, but through the spontaneous cooperation of millions of individual minds choosing to work together. The indomitable dawn, with Captain Doyen as the primary nexus of the network, became the fleet's strategic consciousness. He could see the entire battle at once, feel every ship, know every crew member. It was more awareness than any human mind should be able to process. But he was not processing it alone. Millions of others shared the burden. "Focus fire on the Vex Sovereign," Doyen ordered, and every ship in the fleet understood instantly. "We take down the head, and the body may follow." The remaining Titan-class vessels performed synchronized quantum fold jumps, appearing inside the Sovereign's defensive perimeter. At the same moment, Commander Yoon led 50,000 Marines in a massive boarding action. Not just humans, but mixed teams from every species. They had practiced together, trained together, bled together. Now they would win or die together. Inside the Vex Sovereign, the fighting was nightmarish. Every corridor was alive and hostile. The ship itself fought back, growing weapons and traps from its own structure, but the boarding teams pushed forward through sheer determination. Commander Yoon and his stone-born friend Kragmar held a crucial junction against impossible odds. Around them, Astranian soldiers fought beside human Marines. Celestian energy beings phased through walls to attack from unexpected angles. They were not many species anymore. They were one force united by choice. Fleetmaster Kim, wounded but alive, led the final push toward the Sovereign's core. They found it in a massive chamber deep within the ship. It was not a command deck. It was a biological collective. Thousands of absorbed beings melded into one grotesque intelligence. Engineer John, through his link with the Dawn, recognized something the others did not. The Sovereign was not trying to destroy them. It was trying to absorb them. The Devarex saw assimilation as the highest form of evolution. They consumed not out of malice but out of a twisted desire for unity. Captain Doyen faced an impossible choice. Destroy the Sovereign with everyone still aboard. Let the synthesis protocol connect to it and risk corruption, or try something that had never been attempted. He chose to communicate. John, link the Dawn to the Sovereign, not for assimilation, for conversation. "Captain, that is incredibly dangerous." "I know." "Do it anyway." The link was established. Human consciousness touched Devarex Collective. In a moment that lasted nanoseconds and eternities, two completely alien minds met. Doyen showed the Sovereign something it had never experienced. The synthesis protocol. Millions of beings connected yet remaining individual. Unity through choice rather than force. Cooperation without consumption. The message was simple. You consume because you are alone. You need not be, the Vex Sovereign paused. In 10,000 years, the Devarex had never stopped. But they stopped now. Through the link, the Sovereign felt something it had never known: true connection. The emergency medical bays of the Indomitable Dawn worked around the clock. Thousands of injured crew members needed treatment, and the ship's biological system strained to keep up with demand. Commander Yoon Tae-jin sat in one of the medical pods, his broken ribs being repaired by accelerated cellular regeneration. He did not want to rest. He wanted to get back to his teams. But the medical officers had insisted. In the pod next to him, a young security officer named Park Ji-ho slept, her arm being regrown after a Devourex weapon had severed it at the elbow. She was 19 years old. This had been her first combat experience. She had fought bravely and survived. Many had not. Yoon stared at the ceiling of the medical bay, thinking about the 4,000 crew members who would never go home. He knew every death was necessary. They had saved thousands of Council civilians, but knowing something was necessary did not make it hurt less. A stone-born warrior named Kragmar entered the medical bay, moving slowly despite his species' natural durability. He had been injured fighting alongside human security teams in one of the boarding actions. He sat down heavily next to Yoon's pod. "Your people fight well," Kragmar said in his deep, rumbling voice. "I have seen many species in combat. Few show such determination." "We learned to fight out of necessity," Yoon replied quietly. "During the plague wars, those who gave up died. We are descended from those who refused to quit. I understand. My own people have similar history." Kragmar was silent for a moment. "I killed many today. It does not feel good even when necessary." "No, it never does. And anyone who tells you otherwise has never truly fought." The two warriors sat in companionable silence, sharing the weight of violence that neither had wanted but both had embraced to protect others. On the bridge, Captain Doyen met with the Council delegation again. But this time the atmosphere was completely different. Veltharis no longer carried himself with arrogant superiority. The insectoid counselor had watched human courage firsthand. Brockmar looked at Doyen with open respect, and Ambassador Lysira glowed with genuine warmth. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you," Brockmar said formally. "You saved thousands of lives today. You had no obligation to help us. We abandoned your species centuries ago, yet you came to our aid without hesitation." Doyen nodded slightly. "We help because it is right, not because we expect something in return. That is what we learned during our isolation. We are strongest when we protect each other." "The Devourex will return," Veltharis said. "They fled today, but they will come back in greater numbers. Their swarm was just a scout force. The real invasion is coming." "We know," Doyen replied. "Our sensors detected massive fleet movements at the edge of our range. 24 larger vessels, each one 50 times the size of the Indomitable Dawn, Hive-world ships, and thousands of support craft. The Devourex are preparing a full-scale invasion." The delegation fell silent. The numbers were overwhelming. Even with humanity's help, could the galaxy stand against such a force? Admiral Park Ji-woo arrived at the Council station 2 days later, aboard the Titan-class vessel Eternal Horizon. She brought with her Earth's full commitment to the coming war. 37 Titan-class ships, thousands of heavy cruisers and destroyers, tens of thousands of fast-attack corvettes, and the promise of shared technology. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, no longer in their comfortable chambers but aboard a military command station, hastily constructed for coordinating the defense. Every major species sent representatives. This was no longer about politics or territory. This was about survival. Admiral Park stood before them all, her uniform simple but her presence commanding. "The Devourex are coming. They will arrive in approximately 3 weeks. In that time, we must prepare a defense that can stop them, not defeat them. Not drive them away, stop them permanently, and to do that we must work together as never before." She activated a holographic display showing the tactical situation. "Humanity will share our technology, our quantum fold engines, our living ship designs, our weapon systems. We are not doing this to gain advantage. We are doing it because the alternative is extinction for everyone." Veltharis stood. To everyone's surprise, there was no arrogance in his voice when he spoke. "The Austranian Empire will commit 10,000 ships to the defense. Our manufacturing facilities are at your disposal, Admiral Park. Tell us what you need and we will build it." Other species followed. The Stoneborn Coalition offered their ancient dreadnoughts with impenetrable armor. The Celestian Harmony would merge their energy form vessels with human ships to amplify defensive capabilities. Smaller species contributed everything they could, even if it was just a handful of ships or industrial capacity. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy was truly united. Dr. Choi Hana worked with scientists from 20 different species. Sharing 3 centuries of human research, the cultural barriers were enormous. Each species thought differently, processed information differently, understood physics differently. But slowly they found common ground. A Celestian energy being named Photar became particularly close with Dr. Choi. "Your species thinks in interesting ways," Photar said. "You see connections we miss because you experienced isolation. You had to find new solutions because old ones were not available. And your species sees patterns we cannot," Dr. Choi replied. "Energy is your natural state. You understand quantum mechanics intuitively, while we struggle with mathematics. Together, we can create things neither of us could alone." Lieutenant Kang Min-seo coordinated navigation for the combined fleet. It was an enormous challenge. Every species had different faster-than-light travel methods. Ships moved at different speeds, had different turning capabilities, required different formation strategies. Merging them into a coherent fighting force seemed impossible, but Kang was brilliant. He created a hybrid coordination system that allowed ships to move in flexible formations while maintaining tactical coherence. It was not perfect, but it worked. Commander Oh Yoonji, captain of the Eternal Horizon, worked with Fleet Master Kim Dae-hyun to train the fast-attack corvette squadrons, 50,000 small ships from a dozen species, each one fast and deadly but vulnerable. They would be the fleet's strike force, hitting hard and withdrawing before the enemy could respond. "Speed is life," Commander O told the mixed species crews. "The Devorex adapt quickly, so we must move faster than they can respond. Hit them, move. Hit them again from a different angle. Never stay still. Never be predictable." The corvette pilots practiced relentlessly. Human pilots flew alongside Australian, Celestian, and others. At first, they struggled to coordinate, but slowly they learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. They learned to trust. Lieutenant Commander Bae Soman grappled with the ethical implications of her weapons. The probability weapons had proven effective, but they were also terrifying. She could end lives without even firing a projectile, simply by making it certain the target no longer existed. It felt too much like playing God. Ambassador Lysira found her in the weapons lab late one night, staring at her designs with troubled eyes. "You carry a heavy burden," Lysira said softly. "I created weapons that can kill without remorse," Bae replied. "I made it easy to end life." "What does that say about me?" "It says you understand the weight of what you have done. Those who create weapons without thought are dangerous, but you think about every life your weapons might take. That awareness is what keeps you human. Is it enough? I do not know, but it is more than many can claim." As the days passed, the combined fleet grew. Thousands of ships from dozens of species assembled at strategic points throughout the region. Supply chains were established. Communication protocols were refined. Battle drills were conducted until every crew member knew their role, but everyone knew it might not be enough. The Devarex had consumed civilizations for millennia. They had assimilated technology from thousands of species. They learned and adapted faster than any organic mind. How could any defense stand against such an enemy? Captain Doyen stood on the bridge of the indomitable Dawn, watching the fleet assemble through the view screen. Engineer John Hyunwoo stood beside him, monitoring the ship's biological systems. "The ship is healing," John said. "Its wounds are closing, but it remembers the pain, it remembers the fear, and it knows more pain is coming." "We all do," Doyen replied, "but we face it together. That is what makes us different from the Devorex. They are unified through forced assimilation. We choose to stand together while remaining individuals. That is our strength." The long-range sensors suddenly activated with urgent warnings. The Devorex were early. They had not waited 3 weeks. They were arriving now. 24 massive Hive-world ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Each one was a moon-sized fortress, bristling with weapons and carrying millions of combat units. Behind them came thousands of support vessels, an armada that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever assembled, and leading them was something even larger. A monstrosity called the Vex Sovereign, a Hive-world ship that carried the absorbed knowledge and biology of 1,000 extinct species. It was not just a ship. It was a mobile grave for entire civilizations. Admiral Park Ji-woo listened to Captain Doyen's report from 40 light-years away on Earth. Her face remained calm, but her mind was racing through dozens of scenarios simultaneously. The Devourex had returned. 300 ships were bearing down on the Council Station. Humanity's first meeting with the galaxy was about to become a battlefield. "How long until they arrive?" she asked. 6 hours, Doyen replied. "The Council forces are preparing to evacuate the station, but they do not have enough transport ships. Thousands will be trapped when the Devourex arrive." Park stood from her command chair aboard the orbital station above Earth. Through the massive windows behind her, the planet glowed blue and green. 45 billion people lived down there and throughout the solar system. All of them had survived the plague wars. All of them had clawed their way back from the edge of extinction. Now their first representatives to the galaxy faced an impossible choice. "What does the Council expect from us?" Park asked. "Nothing officially, but Brockmar has made it clear they would welcome our assistance. Veltharis is too proud to ask directly, but even he knows they cannot win this fight alone." Park closed her eyes for a moment. 300 years ago, humanity had been on the verge of joining the greater galactic community. Then the plague wars had erupted and the galaxy had abandoned them to their fate. No help had come. No rescue had arrived. Humanity had survived alone, bitter and isolated. Now the galaxy needed help. The irony was not lost on her. "Captain Doyen, you understand what this means? If we fight, we reveal our full capabilities. Every species in the galaxy will know exactly what we can do. Some will see us as saviors. Others will see us as a new threat to fear." "I understand, Admiral. But I also understand that 12,000 civilians are on that station. Scientists, diplomats, families. If we do nothing, they die. Is that who we want to be?" Park opened her eyes. She had her answer. "No, that is not who we are. We did not survive 3 centuries of hell to watch others suffer when we can help. Engage the enemy, Captain. Show the galaxy what humanity stands for." "Yes, Admiral. And the escort fleet? Keep them in reserve for now. Let the indomitable Dawn handle this alone unless absolutely necessary. 1 ship should be enough to make our point." The transmission ended. Park immediately activated channels to Earth's government. They needed to know that humanity was about to enter its first combat engagement with an alien force. The political implications would be enormous, but that was a problem for later. Right now, people needed saving. On the indomitable Dawn, Captain Doyen addressed his crew of 12 million souls. His voice carried through every corridor, every living space, every workstation on the massive ship. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage an enemy force that threatens the Galactic Council Station. Thousands of innocent people will die if we do nothing. I know we just arrived. I know we are tired from our long journey, but we are being asked to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is not a burden. That is an honor." Battle stations. Commander Yoon Taejin moved through the ship's corridors, directing security teams to defensive positions. His augmented body allowed him to process tactical data faster than any normal human, coordinating thousands of personnel across multiple decks. The ship's living walls pulsed around him, responding to the elevated stress levels of the crew. The indomitable Dawn was not just a vessel, it was alive, and it knew what was coming. Lieutenant Kang Min-sok worked with his navigation team, plotting defensive positions that would keep the Dawn between the station and the incoming enemy. His calculations had to be perfect. 1 mistake could cost thousands of lives, both on the station and aboard the ship. Dr. Choi Hana stood in the science section with her team, analyzing every scrap of data they had on the Devourex. The historical records were centuries old, but they painted a terrifying picture. The Devourex were not just invaders. They were a plague that consumed civilizations and assimilated their technology and biology into themselves. They learned from every encounter, adapted to every defense, and never stopped until their enemy was completely absorbed. "We need to understand how they think," Dr. Choi said to her team. "They are not like us. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They simply consume. Our only advantage is that they have never encountered human technology before. We have 1 chance to surprise them. After that, they will adapt." In the weapons section, Lieutenant Commander Bae So-min prepared the ship's arsenal. She was 32 years old, brilliant, and haunted by the death of her parents in humanity's last major conflict. The weapons she had helped design were devastating. Probability collapse cannons that could make it certain a target was already destroyed. gravitic shearing fields that tore matter apart at the atomic level, and the ship's living hull that could generate new weapons configurations on demand. But Bay Soman knew that every weapon came with a moral cost. The more powerful the weapon, the heavier the burden on those who used it. She had spent years wrestling with the ethics of her work. Now she would see if all that internal debate meant anything, when lives hung in the balance. Engineer John Hyun-woo stood in the heart of the ship. His neural implants connected directly to the Dawn's biological systems. He could feel the vessel's emotions, its fears and hopes. The ship was afraid. It had never been in combat before. Like most of humanity's new generation, it had grown up in peace, knowing war only from history. "I know you are scared," John whispered to the ship through their connection. "I am scared too. But we are not alone. We have each other. And we are stronger together than we could ever be apart. Trust me, trust the crew. We will get through this." The ship's biological system seemed to calm slightly, its bioluminescent patterns shifting from anxious red to determined blue. The Devour-X fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 300 vessels of twisted biomechanical horror emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of metal insects. Their ships were not built. They were grown, organic and mechanical, fused into something that should not exist. They moved with unnatural coordination, each ship a cell in a larger organism, driven by a single terrible purpose: consume, assimilate, evolve. The Council fleet moved to intercept, but everyone watching knew it was hopeless. 47 ships against 300 was not a battle. It was a massacre waiting to happen. Then the indomitable Dawn moved. The massive Titan-class vessel positioned itself directly between the Devour-X swarm and the Council station. It did not run. It did not hide. It simply stood its ground, 47 kilometers of living metal and human determination. Captain Doyen opened a communication channel to the Council fleet. "All ships fall back to the station and begin evacuation procedures." "We will hold the line." Veltheris's voice came back immediately. "You are one ship. They are 300. This is suicide." "Then watch and learn what one human ship can do," Doyen replied calmly. "All Council vessels fall back now." The Devour-X fleet did not slow. They had no need for communication or negotiation. They simply accelerated toward their target, weapons charging, ready to tear through the dawn and consume everything beyond it. But they had never faced humanity before. They had never encountered a species that had spent 3 centuries learning to survive in impossible conditions. They had never met a ship that was alive and angry. The first Devour-X salvo hit the Dawn's shields like a hammer. Energy weapons and kinetic projectiles that could shatter mountains slammed into the dimensional barriers that surrounded the ship. But the barriers did not break. They bent, redirected, and absorbed. The Dawn's point defense systems activated. Gravitic shearing fields created localized spatial distortions that simply erased incoming missiles from existence. The Devour-X weapons touched the fields and ceased to be, disintegrated at the quantum level. Then the indomitable Dawn returned fire. Lieutenant Commander Bay Soman's probability collapse cannons spoke. Reality itself bent around their targets. 3 Devour-X ships simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but retroactively made never to have been there. The quantum manipulation was so precise that it looked like the ships had never existed at all. The Devour-X swarm hesitated for exactly 0.3 seconds. Then they adapted. Their ships began generating quantum shields protecting against probability manipulation. They spread their formation wider, making it harder to target multiple vessels at once. And they launched boarding pods toward the Dawn, trying to get inside the ship's defenses. Commander Yoon Taejin watched the pods breach the outer hull sections. "All security teams prepare for close combat. They are coming inside. The battle had truly begun." The Devour-X were about to learn why humanity had built ships with 12 million crew members. They were not just sailors. They were soldiers, scientists, engineers, and every single one of them had grown up knowing that survival meant fighting for every breath. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as one human ship held the line against an impossible enemy. The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chambers. Every species representative turned their attention to the massive holographic display that dominated the center of the room. Something was coming. Something impossible. High Chancellor Brockmar, his ancient stone-like body crackling with concern, stared at the readings. He had lived for 1,200 years. He had seen empires rise and fall, but he had never seen anything like this. "It cannot be real," Counselor Veltharis hissed, his insectoid mandibles clicking nervously. "Your sensors are malfunctioning. Nothing that large could move through space." But the sensors were not wrong. The object approaching the outer rim measured 47 kilometers in length. Its mass reading suggested something as heavy as a small moon. The energy signature coming from it exceeded the output of entire star systems. Whatever this thing was, it was beyond anything the galaxy had ever created. Ambassador Lysira, her energy form shimmering with curiosity, floated closer to the display. "The design is unfamiliar. We should send scouts to investigate before it reaches our borders." "No need," Bruckmar said quietly. His voice carried the weight of ancient memory. "I recognize the signature patterns. I have seen them before 800 years ago." He paused, letting the words settle. "It is human." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives laughed. Others demanded proof. The very idea seemed absurd. Humanity had been silent for 3 centuries. Their home system had been quarantined after the devastating plague wars. Most assumed they had destroyed themselves or fallen back into primitive barbarism. The galaxy had moved on without them, but Brockmar did not make mistakes about such things. Captain Han Doyen stood on the command bridge of the Indomitable Dawn, watching the holographic star map with calm eyes. At 48 years old, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had survived humanity's darkest hours. His uniform, simple and functional, bore no excessive decorations. He did not need them. The ship he commanded spoke for itself. "Navigation, confirm our position," Doyen said. Lieutenant Kang Min-seok, young and brilliant, checked his console. "We are entering the neutral zone border, Captain." "Right on schedule." "The escort fleet is holding position at the system's edge as planned." Doyen nodded. 50 warships waited behind them, each one larger than the biggest battlecruisers the galaxy had known before humanity's isolation. But they would remain hidden for now. First contact needed to be handled carefully. Humanity had learned many hard lessons during their 3 centuries alone. Patience was one of them. "Open a channel to Earth," Doyen ordered. "Let Admiral Park know we have arrived." The communication came through instantly. Admiral Park Jiwoo appeared on the screen, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of the bridge behind Doyen. She was younger than him by 5 years, but she had risen through the ranks with impressive speed. Her mind worked like a strategic computer, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. "Captain, the Council is aware of your presence. They are sending a delegation to meet with you. Remember, this is more than just first contact. This is humanity's chance to show the galaxy who we have become." Her voice softened slightly. "Be careful, Doyen. Some of them will fear us. Others will want to test us. Do not give them reasons to do either." "Understood, Admiral. We will be ready." The delegation arrived 6 hours later. Their shuttle looked tiny next to the Indomitable Dawn, like a child's toy floating beside a mountain. The docking bay that received them was larger than most capital ships in the galaxy. As the delegates stepped out, they found themselves staring at a space that could easily hold 1,000 smaller vessels. The delegation consisted of 3 representatives. Veltharis moved with nervous energy, his compound eyes taking in everything, calculating, judging. Brockmar walked slowly, his massive stone form making each step deliberate. Lysira simply floated, her curiosity genuine and unafraid. They were met by Commander Yoon Taijin, head of security. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his body enhanced with biological augmentations that made him stronger and faster than any baseline human, but his manner was polite, even gentle. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable Dawn. Captain Doyen is waiting for you in the main conference hall, if you will follow me." As they walked through the ship's corridors, the delegates could not hide their amazement. The walls were not just metal. They seemed almost alive, with subtle patterns that shifted and flowed. The air smelled clean, recycled through biological systems that were far more efficient than mechanical filters. Crew members passed by, and every one of them moved with purpose and coordination that suggested something more than simple training. "How many crew members serve on this vessel?" Lysira asked. 12 million souls, Yoon answered simply. Veltharis stopped walking. "That is impossible. No ship can support that many people." "Human ships can," Yoon replied. "We learned to build differently during our isolation." The conference hall was enormous. Captain Doyen waited there with Dr. Choi Hana, the ship's chief science officer and historian. She was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes that had seen too much suffering and too much hope. She would be the one to explain humanity's transformation to the galaxy. The meeting began formally, with diplomatic greetings and careful words. But Veltharis quickly grew impatient. Enough pleasantries. We thought your species was extinct or reduced to scattered survivors. Yet you arrive in a vessel that defies our understanding of engineering. Explain yourselves. Doyen gestured to Dr. Choi, who activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the table. Earth scarred and wounded. Underground cities. Massive orbital rings. Transformed moons and planets throughout the Sol system. The plague wars did not destroy us, Dr. Choi began. They changed us. When the bioweapons were released, we had no choice but to retreat underground and into sealed orbital habitats. For 3 centuries, we lived in closed systems. Everything had to be recycled, reused, perfected. We could not afford waste or inefficiency. Every resource mattered. Every person mattered. She showed them images of Earth's population centers. Not billions, but 45 billion humans spread across the entire solar system. Mars had been terraformed. Europa's ice had been melted to reveal vast oceans beneath. Titan's methane lakes had been tamed and converted. The asteroid belt had become a network of industrial stations. Massive rings orbited Earth and Mars, each one home to billions of people. We developed technologies your species has not conceived, Dr. Choi continued. Our quantum fold engines work on different theoretical principles. Our ships are not just machines. They are living organisms bonded with technology. They grow, adapt, and heal themselves. Brockmar leaned forward. And your weapons? A heavy silence filled the room. Captain Doyen spoke carefully. We built what we needed to survive. Nothing more. Nothing less. Show us, Veltharis demanded. Dr. Choi hesitated, then brought up new data. Power readings. Weapon specifications. Ship counts. The numbers were staggering. The 37 Titan-class vessels like the Indomitable Dawn were just humanity's diplomatic fleet. Earth's defensive armada numbered in the thousands. Their weapons were based on physics that manipulated probability itself, making possibilities into certainties. Veltharis stood abruptly. You have become a threat to galactic stability. You should have remained in your quarantine. We are not a threat, Doyen said calmly. We are survivors who want to rejoin the larger community. We have knowledge to share and much to learn from you. That is why we came. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Kang's voice came through the communication system, urgent but controlled. Captain, long-range sensors have detected multiple incoming signatures. Unknown configuration. They are heading directly for the council station at high speed. Doyen stood immediately. How many? 300 ships, sir. Energy signatures match historical records. Captain, they are Devourx. The word hit the delegation like a physical blow. The Devourx were the galaxy's ancient nightmare. Biomechanical horrors that consumed entire civilizations. They had been thought dormant, hiding in dark space for generations. Now they had returned, and they were coming here. Brockmar's stone face showed something that might have been fear. The Council's defense force at this station has 47 ships. We cannot survive this attack. Captain Doyen looked at his crew, then at the delegates, then at the holographic display showing the approaching enemy. Humanity had just announced its return to the galaxy. Now the galaxy was about to see exactly what 3 centuries of isolation had forged. Sound general quarters, Doyen ordered. Prepare the Indomitable Dawn for combat, and someone get Admiral Park on the line. We need to make a decision. The galaxy was about to change forever. The only question was whether anyone would survive to see it. The Eternal Dawn emerged from the Nexus jump in a region of space where no council ship had ever ventured. Stars were sparse here, ancient and dying. In the distance, massive structures floated in the void, so large they bent light around them. Scanning, Hyun said, his voice tight. Captain, those structures are artificial. Some of them are bigger than planets. Energy signatures are off our scale. Yoonji worked frantically at her science station. I'm detecting thousands of Devourer signatures. No, tens of thousands. They're dormant, but they're everywhere. This entire region is a staging ground. Jihoon studied the tactical display. They had found the enemy's home base. Now they needed to hurt it badly enough to matter. Minji, status on the Nexus drive? One more jump, Captain, maybe. The field generators are fracturing. We won't survive a third use, one more jump, one more chance to escape. But escape to what? A galaxy that would eventually fall to this force? Jihoon had come here knowing he wouldn't return. Time to commit to that choice. Mark all major structures as targets. Load every weapon we have. We're going to make the biggest noise possible. Daeho's fighter squadron launched, spreading out to scout the massive constructs. What they found was beyond comprehension. Ships in various stages of construction, each one a devourer mothership. Resource processors the size of moons. And at the center of it all, something that made the young pilot's breath catch. "Captain, you need to see this," Daeho transmitted. His fighter's camera focused on a structure at the heart of the complex. It was spherical, easily 10,000 kilometers in diameter, covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at. "That's no ship," Yoonji whispered. "That's a mind. An artificial intelligence. That's what's controlling all the devourers. The master. Singular, not plural. One vast machine intelligence that had been consuming the galaxy for eons. And they had just flown directly into its home. The sphere detected them. Across the complex, dormant devourers came to life. Weapons charged. Ships began moving. The Eternal Dawn had minutes before the entire fleet surrounded them. "All weapons fire at will," Jihoon ordered. "Target that sphere. If we can hurt it, maybe we can slow down its next invasion." The human ship unleashed everything. Missiles streaked toward their targets. Energy weapons carved through the darkness. The main cannon, barely functional after the last battle, fired one more time. The massive beam struck the sphere directly, burning through layers of exotic armor. The sphere responded. A wave of energy swept across space, so powerful it knocked out half the Eternal Dawn systems. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Hull breaches appeared on a dozen decks. The ship was dying, but it wasn't dead yet. "Damage report," Jihoon called out. "Main weapons offline," Hyun replied. "Shields gone. Hull integrity at 30%. Captain, we have maybe 5 minutes before structural collapse. Then we use those 5 minutes. Minji, can you overload the reactor?" There was a pause. Minji understood what he was asking. "Yes, I can create a cascade failure. The explosion will be comparable to a supernova. Everything within 10 million kilometers will be destroyed. Do it. Set it for manual detonation. I want to choose when we go." Throughout the ship, the crew understood what was happening. They had come here to strike a blow against the darkness. Now they would become the blow itself. There was no panic, no despair, just determination. Daeho brought his fighter squadron back to the Eternal Dawn. Jihoon ordered them to stay away, to try to escape on their own. Daeho refused. "We're the gravity wolves, sir. We hunt as a pack. We die as a pack." One by one, the fighters docked. Their pilots came aboard, abandoning their craft to stand with their captain. It was tactically useless. It was emotionally necessary. The Devourer fleet closed in, thousands of ships surrounding the damaged human vessel. The sphere pulsed with energy, preparing to erase the intruders. But it hesitated, analyzing. This species was new. Unexpected, their actions made no logical sense. They had come here knowing they would die. Why? On Earth, Admiral Taeyang watched the long-range telemetry with tears streaming down his face. The Eternal Dawn's final transmission had arrived minutes earlier. Jihoon's last words to humanity. "This is Captain Jihoon Park. If you're receiving this, we've reached the Master's stronghold. We're going to hurt them. We're going to show them that humanity doesn't surrender. Tell Earth that we were honored to serve. Tell the galaxy that we bought them time. Use it well." In the council chamber, every delegate stood in silence as the message played. Ambassador Soman had ensured everyone heard it. The human ship had flown beyond the galaxy itself to face an ancient evil. They were going to die, and they knew it, and they had gone anyway. "This is what humanity represents," Soman said, her voice breaking. "We don't accept extinction quietly, we fight. And we make the darkness pay for every inch it takes." Aboard the dying Eternal Dawn, Jihoon stood on his bridge for the last time. His crew surrounded him. Hyun at tactical, calculating the optimal detonation point. Minji in engineering, her hand on the reactor controls. Daeho and his pilots ready for whatever came. Hyunji at her science station recording data to the very end. "It's been an honor serving with you," Jihoon said simply. "The honor was ours, Captain," Hyun replied. The others nodded agreement. The Devourer fleet opened fire. The first shot struck the Eternal Dawn's already damaged hull, tearing through armor like paper. Explosions rippled across the ship. Sections depressurized. The bridge view screen cracked. Jihoon's hand moved to the manual detonation control. One press, One moment, and humanity would leave a scar on the universe that would never heal. For Earth, he said. For Earth, his crew echoed. He pressed the control. The quantum fold reactor exploded. With the fury of a newborn star, the eternal dawn ceased to exist, transformed into pure energy. The blast wave expanded at relativistic speeds, consuming everything in its path. Devourer ships vanished. Construction facilities were vaporized. The sphere itself, the ancient machine intelligence that had ruled this region of space for millions of years, fractured under the assault. The light was visible from the galactic rim. Sensors across Council space detected the explosion, measuring energy levels that shouldn't have been possible. Humanity's greatest achievement, and all the brave souls aboard it, had become a weapon of last resort, and it worked. The sphere didn't die, but it was damaged. Badly. For the first time in its endless existence, it had been hurt, and it learned something it had never expected. Organic life could be dangerous, unpredictable, willing to sacrifice everything to protect what they loved. The Masters had considered humanity as prey. Now they would consider them as a threat. 3 weeks after the explosion, the Council held a memorial service. New Sol erected a monument visible from orbit, a crystal structure containing the names of every soul who died aboard the Eternal Dawn. 3,000 humans who had changed the galaxy forever. Admiral Taeyang Kim accepted Earth's new position on the Council's Supreme Command. His first act was to propose a unified defense initiative. No more hiding. No more retreat. The galaxy would prepare for what was coming, and they would do it together. Ambassador Somin stood before the Council one more time. Captain Park and his crew bought us time. They showed the Masters that we're not helpless, but their sacrifice only matters if we use the time they gave us. We must prepare. We must unite. And when the darkness comes again, we must be ready to fight as they fought, with courage, with determination, and with the knowledge that some things are worth dying for. The galaxy listened. For the first time in its history, the Council voted to create a combined military force. Ships from every species would serve together. Humans would train alongside aliens. Technology would be shared freely. The age of isolation was over. Earth began construction on 3 new Titan-class vessels. But these would be different, built with Council technology and human innovation combined. Each one a symbol of unity, a promise that Jihoon's sacrifice would not be forgotten. In the dark beyond the galaxy, the damaged sphere slowly repaired itself. It had learned. Humanity was dangerous. The organic species of the galaxy, when united, could fight back. The next invasion would need to be different, more careful, more complete. But it had also learned something else. The light that had destroyed so much of its fleet wasn't just an explosion. It was a message, a declaration, a challenge. Humanity had punched the darkness in the face, and the darkness, for the first time ever, had felt pain. The story of the Eternal Dawn spread across the galaxy. Children learned about Captain Jihoon Park, the human who refused to accept defeat. Songs were written about the crew who sailed beyond the stars. Every species remembered the day when humans showed them what courage truly meant. And on Earth, in the Space Force Academy, a new motto was inscribed above the entrance. We stand, we fight, we remember. The Eternal Dawn was gone, but its legacy would burn forever.